And I'm so excited to kick you off with our first speaker. Our first speaker is someone I've heard speak many times, also one of the loveliest, probably don't tell my husband that, but one of the loveliest, kindest men I have come across as well. And I'm so excited to introduce you to him. His name is Gamiel Yafai. He is an award-winning diversity and inclusion expert. He has worked with some of the UK's largest employers on their diversity and inclusion strategies, specifically around culture change, helping organizations in how they can attract people from diverse backgrounds, but also working with that talent to help them really reach their potential. He is an absolute brain box when it comes to all things diversity and inclusion, but particularly leadership and the impact of unconscious bias, which I'm hoping, Gamiel, you're going to talk about again today. I really can't wait to hear you speak. It's been such a long time, Gamiel. So hello.
Hello and good morning to you, Ruth. Thank you very much for that brilliant introduction. I'm not deserving. Yeah, it's a great privilege and pleasure to be kicking off the EMEA, African and Europe leg of workplace Inspirathon. I just can't say how excited I am to be part of this brilliant event. So thank you, and Matt and everybody there for putting this on. I want to thank all of the audience for taking the time to come and join us today. So, as you said, Ruth, my name is Gamiel Yafai. I'm going to talk about a braver new world, moving the dial on diversity and inclusion. But first, just a bit of information about myself. I'm a proud British Yemeni, and I'm the author of Yemen Proud, which is probably my biggest achievement, which is literally a book produced for Yemeni kids to re-engage them with their rich history, their ancestry, and where they come from. I've also written a book with a colleague, Jitin Patel, called Demystifying Diversity, focusing on the simplicity of a topic that we make complicated, which adds to the confusion around it. So I've been involved I've been a diversity strategist for 20 years. I spent 9 years as head of diversity for branding, recruitment, advertising, marketing organizations. And the last 11 years, I've focused on developing my own diversity practice. And to be honest with you, it's just given me the freedom to be myself. I'm really fortunate that I wake up every single morning knowing that I can make a difference. And I'm sure for my family and everybody that knows me, that genuinely does sort of help me, I don't know, get a message across and help and support as many people as possible. I consider myself to be a change agent. However, every single person watching this today is a potential change agent and has the opportunity to make huge strides. So just coming into the topic, first, I just want to celebrate the brilliant Martin Luther King, as it was Martin Luther King Day this week. He has many quotes, but one of my favorite is, "The time is always right to do what is right." And we have so many opportunities to do what is right. However, sadly, humans are lazy and we choose the simplest option. We need to move away from choosing those simple options and take time to consider everybody around us. So within my 20 years of doing this work, I would love to be able to stand here and say that we have made huge strides. Yes, there has been lots of change. Lots of organizations are doing great things, however, we just haven't moved at the pace that we should be moving at, that we need to move at, that is right to, to create the change needed in the workplace in order for everybody to feel that that workplace is conducive to their needs, to their individual needs. And this is part of where there is confusion around diversity and inclusion. But if I just talk about some of the, the many reasons why we haven't progressed and why there are huge opportunities ahead of us. And some of those reasons are, when we talk about diversity and inclusion, or if we talk about diversity alone, the term diversity within workplaces can be exclusive rather than inclusive, because when we, the conversations around diversity are always focused on, disability, LGBT, ethnicity, age, gender, and you've got so many people that don't feel part of that agenda or don't feel that they're included. And that's partially why we've moved over the years, probably within the last 5-6 years, to really focusing on the term inclusion, to make sure that everybody feels part of this journey. Everybody has an opportunity to grow, develop, be their true selves. However, other barriers include the fact that even though, gosh, we're talking about 65 years since the Race Relations Act, 65 years, and we are still talking about race discrimination. We do so much talking without the action. Also, organizations that are at different points in terms of their maturity. I still talk to hundreds of organizations that, the first thing they say to me is, oh, we're only just starting our journey. I'm thinking, you started your journey a long time. You chose, the direction of your journey. And, this wasn't really part of that direction. Other things include people see diversity and inclusion as an initiative rather than a business imperative. Those organizations that drive and proactive, really proactive and intentional about what they do in order to make the workplace a better place for their people, are the organizations that are thriving, getting that difference of opinion, that different perspective, and that difference in terms of, cognitive diversity, which I'll talk about more in a moment. But other barriers, are the lack of senior leadership commitment. And I'm really fortunate to be connected with so many different organizations. One of those organizations is, D&I Leaders, who support 1,500 diversity leaders and heads of diversity within organizations. And doing research with them, shows the barriers that they experience when they're trying to move the agenda forward. So that lack of senior leadership commitment, the lack of resource, the lack of finance, and I experience it all the time. If I send out a proposal to an organization, money is always the issue. So the final thing, well, I say final thing, many barriers, but one of the others is that, diversity and inclusion is still predominantly seen as a HR issue. It is not a HR issue. Every single organization, every single department within that organization, every single team, and then every single individual has a responsibility for creating a culture of inclusion. So those are just some of the barriers that we've experienced. But again, very fortunate that over the last, I would say, 15 years, I've been involved in 36 pieces of research around, one, the external perceptions of different groups towards specific employers, but also the reality of working for those employers from different minority perspectives. And that's exploring the lived experiences of being in those organizations. And to me, we have numerous cultures within organizations. We have this explicit culture, which is how an organization sees itself, and the homogeneous group within that organization see themselves as really positive, really forward thinking. All of their corporate reports and structures and websites only promote the real positive that's going on in their organization. But when you start to talk to individuals from different minority backgrounds, and whether it's sexual orientation, whether it's gender, disability, ethnicity, you will find in every single organization there are hidden and shadow cultures. And that's the lived experiences of those individuals who are in the minority within those organizations. And you will find numerous micro inequalities that exist in all of those organizations because we still haven't moved forward. So with these 30 odd pieces of research, I often look back at some of the previous research projects. And again, all the questions are the same. We want the same pieces of information. If I looked at one of those pieces of research that I did 15 years ago, and I looked at one that I did in November, the challenges, I'd say 98% of the responses are identical, and the same challenges seem to exist. So we haven't moved as far forward as we think we have. We have still got so much to do. Sadly, over 2020 is going to be remembered for the devastation caused by COVID-19 and the death of George Floyd and the emergence of Black Lives Matter. All of these events also offer huge opportunities to make the workplace, society, and the world a much better place. If we focus on what we can do, rather than what we can't do, we will be able to make strides, within the next couple of years rather than the next 65 years. So just looking at COVID, apart from the devastation and the anguish and sorrow that it's caused, it has given us, access to global talent, the shift to remote working. And I'm really fortunate that my better half, Julie, works for a bank, and for years and years she's wanted to work more flexibly, work from home. What did the bank say? Absolutely not. Security issues, it's just not done. Within a week of COVID, her laptop, her computer was actually brought from the office and delivered to our lounge, and everything happened, within a week. We can move mountains if we really want to. We don't have to continuously wait for the next major catastrophe. We can do things now. So COVID has really opened up the world. If we think about all of those individuals with, let's say, disabilities who who can't, who can't mix, who find it difficult to communicate face to face. Working virtually is ideal for those individuals. And but also, sadly, one of the areas that has gone probably backwards over the last year is gender equality. And I smile because it's so sad. Is that women, and we would have thought that working from home would have been so much better for the vast majority of women. However, with schools closing, more homeschooling, who takes on the major burden and the majority of the burden? Even though there are some brilliant men out there that do some phenomenal work with their kids, the burden is majority women. Plus, they're still expected to work, to do schooling, and for some unknown reason still required to do the housework. But we need to think about how we change all of that. But we've got huge opportunities, as I say, to access the globe. One of the things that Black Lives Matter did was it created this new focus on eliminating systemic, structural, and institutional discrimination. I've never had so many conversations with chief execs, with trustees, with boards than I had last year. That is starting to tail down. And I hear this from all of my colleagues. We need to ramp that back up, and we need those senior leaders to stay on board and ensure that they are accountable for the changes that are needed in their organizations. We will only move forward if they are accountable, and take the responsibility, or give the responsibility, by role modeling the behaviors that they want to see and everybody else wants to see. But it has to come from those senior leaders. What a senior leader says will be emulated by everybody else. But in terms of yourselves and everybody on this call, where I talked about being change agents, you don't have to do an awful lot to be a change agent. You can be an ally, whether that's an ally for somebody from an ethnic minority background, somebody with disability, somebody who's gay, lesbian, bisexual, transsexual, or an individual with a disability. It doesn't matter. Or an individual who is introverted, compared to somebody who's extroverted, who has much more of a voice and is, you could say, seen and listened to. We need to focus more on the introverts, and there are so many of them around. So as a let's see, as an ally, what is it that we can do? Well, there's a number of things that we can do. One, we can take on the struggles as our own and lift others by advocating. We can stand up for others even when we feel scared. We need to be having those conversations, those uncomfortable conversations. We need to transfer the benefits of our privilege to those who lack it. Think about our network. Think about the people that we know. Think about the connections and everything else that we have, and that is a privilege because yes, we've worked hard to develop those networks, but those networks actually create opportunities for us to get new projects, to get new business, to actually move up in organizations. We need to transfer that privilege. We need to acknowledge that even though you feel pain, the conversation is not about you, it is about other people. And we need to be willing to own our mistakes and decenter ourselves. We need to be cognizant. We need to be mindful of the biases that we hold and the blind spots that we have in order to progress. We need to start leading ourselves to lead others. We need to be willing to own our own mistakes, but also we need to understand that education is up to you. and no one else. It's not up to a Black person to tell you about Black Lives Matter. It's up to us to go and seek support. We need to be more intentional. We need to focus on not just the business case for within organizations, because not everybody buys into the business case. People have a purpose. Let's tap into the different purposes that people have. Let's focus on the moral and social sort of, cases for diversity and inclusion. So you can do whatever you want to do, but it is totally up to you to take responsibility for creating a world that includes everyone. I'll leave you with my last quote, and it's my favorite quote, and it's one from Gandhi, and it's "Be the change you want to see." Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gamiel. I love listening to you speak. I really do. You just inspire me, and it's really interesting hearing you talk about the dial's not really moved, and 2020 did move the dial in some ways, which was actually so positive. With some really great positives that have come out of 2020. And then I never really reflected on the gender equality piece and how that's actually gone backwards almost without us realizing it. So many organizations have been working on gender pay gaps over the last few years and all the rest of it. But gender equality, as a mum of 3 boys, all under the age of 4, I certainly know that struggle. And I'm fortunate to work for an employer that gets that and practices what we preach indeed. But there are so many people in my position right now who are mostly women. Mostly. Yeah, really interesting. I've got a question for you before I let you go. And that is if anyone that's watching this right now or on demand is maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed with whether their dial's gone up or down or where they are in their strategy, or they haven't even thought about it. And I do hear people, particularly smaller organizations, often say to me, we need to do some D&I stuff. If they do nothing else, what would your advice be on where they start?
So this is the dilemma that most organizations have, is that starting point. Yeah. The starting point with anything is talk to your people. It's talk to your people, either run focus groups, or get other people to talk to your people for you. Because, the workplace is a strange thing, because unless you have psychological safety within your organization where everybody feels comfortable to be themselves and to say what they really think, unless you have that, then people aren't going to be open. There will be fear that if they say something that they're going to, they're going to be penalized or seen as being awkward or being seen as a troublemaker. There are so many people are afraid to put their heads above the parapet, partially because they've been knocked off so many different times. So, and this isn't a bid for business. This is reality. So many managers will talk to their staff, and the staff will tell them what they want to hear. Get somebody externally to do the talking. Run focus groups with individuals who are from different backgrounds, and find out what their lived experiences are of working in the organization. First place to start. Second place is, I'll be brief, is to do an audit of your own good diversity practice. Find out where you are, because if you don't know where you are, you won't have a clue where you're going.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much, Gamiel. Thank you for sharing with us and sharing all your knowledge, and your research that I'm hearing is coming out with the same results. I really, really hope, and I think I've said this a couple of years ago to you, but I really hope next time we speak that dial is moving. all the dials are going in the same direction. But thank you so much. For now, we're going to say goodbye, Gamiel, but we are going to touch on the creating a psychologically safe places to work with in 2 speakers' time. So we will be going into that a bit more. So thank you for segueing that, Gamiel. Thank you very much, and we'll say goodbye.
Thank you to the audience for
okay.
Take care.
Thank you, Gamiel. Thank you.